Hmm.
which isn't that great, but for what I thought they were bad guys, and in the like the way he's asking for his armor and all that, like he
Hmm.
no matter how wacky or crazy they look or where they are, you shouldn't judge them too fast, I guess, because even if they look bad, they might be like protecting their tribe or like their family or being actually a good guy.
So before we get too deep into this, we are chit chatting on the Mandalorian and Book of Boba and a number of other topics. And essentially, for people that aren't all the way inversed into Star Wars lore, that aren't like incredibly balls deep into Star Wars and every facet of it, the Mandalorian and Book of Boba and all the new entries coming to Disney Plus and all the things that we have associated with it, such as the Bad Batch and Rebels and all the orbit of them, for people that haven't had the pleasure of sitting down and watching and scrutinizing every little detail of it, the greatest thing about these shows right this moment is they're not all inclusive with the Jedi and the Sith and all the stuff that we know and popularized by it, and giving us those little crumbs, those little, oh, there's a character from the main show, cameo or whatever you want to call it, them tying in our main characters does a really big benefit. And a lot of people are, complaining that they're not seeing the action that they want to see, particularly particularly towards Boba. You know how Mandalorian was like full blank, full crank, with the action and everything. There's a lot of people saying that they want to see more of that, and I think that the best part is yet to come.
Yeah,
I think we'll have more of that on the way, and the show is only just really wait to see the best. Like character arc and character development doesn't happen like instantly. So just bear that in mind along the way, because I know at some point you'll be like, oh well, this was slow, or this was not
hmm.
pre-defending it, but I'm saying this show in
Yeah.
particularly is kind of a step up for their what they're usually developing.
I didn't mind the pacing of Boba Fett myself. I liked everything that was shown to us because I was learning.
Hmm.
Like everything I was shown, I was learning about him. It was something new for me.
That's really cool. I like how you have the new mentality to this, because it's, like I said,
Yeah,
it's friendly and inclusive for people that don't know it, and for how do you say this, for world building aspect. Boba Fett, in the original, he was like a character that was written in a long time ago, but for someone who has a grand total of less than 4 minutes of screen time and maybe 12 words, I think, in the entire that's all his dialogue is,
yeah.
he's no good to me, dead. And his
This
only
is the
real
way.
line, no, not even in that, like in the original Star Wars, like the
Uh,
him in The Empire Strikes Back, and then and also in Return of the Jedi, which if you haven't seen those, you can, optionally go watch those. But that's where our titular character comes from. Like, the obsession with him was even long before that, because George Lucas had his character in parades, and in after A New Hope, the original Star Wars that had first came out in the 80s, had first came out with the critical success that it had hit. He was already trying out these other characters, and he was supposed to be an advanced stormtrooper race. He was supposed to be one of the last, like a lot of our stormtroopers that we had, we were supposed to have an independent wing of stormtroopers that looked like Boba Fett, but they had white armor, and the testing armor was white. So the entire idea was these were the guys that we had that were from this other planet that we made all the clones of, and these guys were capable of contending with Jedi, with the Sith, and all of them
oh my
alike. They were
gosh,
their
you
own
know your
force.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm heavy into this. Me and my stepdad are like super heavy into this, and we chit chat on it a lot. And essentially, what it boiled out to was his character. They didn't have enough money to develop all the costumes and everything for enough people to man this, and we essentially had cheaper armor with the stormtrooper armor, and we were able to get more stormtroopers, and the dramatic effect of having more stormtroopers to just flood a scene. And we had to make Boba a titular character. We had to develop a method of give him less screen time and a couple lines, but make him seem menacing. So we put the angle down at a camera to look up at the bounty hunters when we first introduced them. A lot of them you'll see on my stream right here. Some of our the villains, well, they're labeled under the heroes on the game, but you'll see some of them, such as Boba Fett himself, and then alongside the Bosk, he is a bounty hunter who's written into the extended universe, and the famous Chewbacca, and a number of other, famous bounty hunters that were in the series as well that we see come back in these shows. They
By
were
the way,
written
Lopez,
in.
I think your mic is making a static noise. Cause
Is it?
I am hearing it, but I'm not hearing that on my PlayStation audio. So maybe you wanna.
Oh, okay. Let me. Huh. Is that Boba Fett? Yeah, that is Boba Fett. That is Boba Fett. I didn't see him in there. I think my audio still comes out of the PlayStation camera. I can't really hear it because I have everything muted on my end. But some just so you know. Is that better?
I'm not sure yet. Or keep talking.
I might have to change the sensitivity on the mic. Give me one moment. Okay.
I think you fixed it.
Um,
Okay, keep going.
George Lucas had written a lot of these characters into his stuff, and they never really got the proper screen time that George had wanted to give them, because at that time the technology hadn't caught up with what he envisioned. And that's cool and all. He had to do the best of what he had, but I feel like a good amount of what we like in the Book of Boba, on top of the Mandalorian, was like a cult following out of Boba Fett and the extended universe that we had written an entire life and a backstory to him, which, to me, in my opinion, Disney didn't have to work hard to write a good story. Much of this stuff was written into the extended universe and was considered by many fans already known. So it kind of baffles me that they write in some scenes that we kind of want to elaborate on particular ways, but they don't, simply because they're like it's non-canon because it was written before the Disney merger. But we can get into that
Hmm.
at some other point. The only thing I want to get out of what I'm rambling on about is that George had written these characters in long before he had ever shown them in their movies, in their prime respectable scenes in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So there was already a cult following for Boba Fett. The Mandalorian, whenever they made that show, showed how much we missed a Lone Ranger, cowboy, bounty hunter, gunslinger with a helmet who doesn't take his helmet off. It showed the hunger for that, the want in
Yeah.
that character. And my
Yeah,
son
and
is like
and that video
so.
you sent me. Well, that video
Mhm.
you sent me on like Mandalorians.
Mhm.
The guy at the end, it was a great video by the way. The guy at the end said that's what people are into nowadays, bounty hunters.
Yeah, bounty hunters. Not only bounty hunters, but this day and age, where we sit in our culture, in our way, the way that people think. And when I say our culture, I mean the culture that we share is most people, and not only in America but across the world, where we tend to
Yeah.
offer our ideas on platforms such as YouTube and other things that we get. Okay, go ahead, buddy. My okay, okay, okay. My son heard me talking and came down here and wanted to say he has his Star Wars toys he wanted to show me. Anyways, the what was I saying? The oh yeah, the
The
video
people
that
as a whole, like across the world,
yeah, the way that we share
and
the our ideas and everything, people really enjoy the idea of these type of characters and giving them human personality. Giving them not only the ideology of we don't take off our helmet and we do things by the book and a certain code and a certain way that we follow. This is the way being an example of the cultural ideology boiled down into one. Like this is the way refers to the way of the Mandalore, and the way of the Mandalore was if you could ride not only the mythosaur but taking control of the entire planet of Mandalore required people to unite under a single banner, and that's difficult. That's some Game of Thrones stuff right there. That's trying to get
yeah,
many warring factions to see the greater good, and that was a very difficult thing for Mandalore. And not only that, each each res- we had to flex the Star Wars watch, y'all. Is it this? Let me see it. Oh no, that's
he's gonna
cars,
be
man. We're
bringing
on
down
a
Star Wars stuff throughout your whole
yeah,
video.
I know. He
Chat,
just
look at
wanted to.
this.
Long story short, he the written thing with this is the way is reflecting that every good step or every step that we take together, this is the step that we take together. You know what I'm saying? Like I chose this for the greater good. You fall in line with it. This is the way. This is the way. I guess you
Yeah,
gotta sign and co-sign for better or for worse because you're a part of that faction now. You're a part of something bigger than you, and that's what it reflects. And that's a
I feel
really
like you
cool
could talk
thing.
about this for days.
Oh yeah, technically you could. I could really,
Yeah, well,
but
we really could. That's the amazing thing about it, because there's so many stories. And it's
it's
like,
a
I
it's a
wonder,
sub
like, they could
world
just
within
tell
a
so
sub
many
world.
stories, couldn't they? Like,
Yeah, they really
Mandalorian,
could.
Boba Fett. I feel like they're barely scratching the surface. Isn't there Eclipse coming out? What is that one about?
That is a PC game, and that's more along the lines of
Getting the mixed there.
yeah, getting no, not mixed, because they all technically tie in. All it does is add more world building, that more lore and more story to it. And on Eclipse, as far as that one goes, I'm not going to speak on something I'm not well versed on, only because I'm comparing it to what is it? The Knights
Okay.
of the Old Republic is where I'm taking it, and I'm not gonna go down too much of them because I'm not as well versed in those as I am just the general um, lore of it all. Is sticking to the point on here on the title and everything, the chit chat about Mandalorian lore. If if you don't already have, other than what I sent you, that little brief recap on the majority of it, the dark saber, heavily influenced weapon at this very moment because a lot of our Disney shows, The Mandalorian and Book of Boba, being a side quest to Mandalorian. If you didn't catch that latest episode, spoiler alert, guys. I'm gonna give you a couple seconds. Five, four, three, two. Um, at the end of the episode, we get a phrase from Fennec Shan, and she says, help isn't that hard to find if you got the credits. And then we hear our titular characters do his theme song and everything. And from that point forward, we already know where the show is going. They're about to start crossing over and everything and bringing characters from one end to the other. So with that momentum moving forward, they have a lot of story building they can build on that. The new quote unquote this is the way is limited to whatever Disney wants it to be. And we have all the lore and backstory that we need on that. We have characters new with Mando, Din Djarin, and we have characters old to certify what they're doing. Boba Fett, Jango Fett, and all these other characters from the original movies to to co-sign all of those things that characters like Din Djarin and Fennec Shan and soon Rosario Dawson with Ahsoka Tano and Ewan McGregor in his Obi-Wan series. So a lot of I look forward to seeing small little crosses here and there of what's to come with what's already known. With Ahsoka Tano and everything. Like I want to know what she's doing in the time of Obi-Wan. Like while Obi-Wan is
Yeah.
trapped on Tatooine, being Godfather from a distance in the desert, what's going on with Ahsoka? What's she been doing? Does she come across Kanan? Does she find Thrawn? Like, I want to know what Thrawn looks like in the live action of it all, and I want to see that play out and come to fruit. Like I have a lot of my own vision I want to see in Star Wars play out, and I'm super hyped for it. People on social media, people like Star Wars Theory and a bunch of other these streamers and everything, they talk about it all the time, and they get a pretty good amount of like people that just want to throw their 2 cents in the ring and project what they think is going to happen, or throw a theory out there. And I think that's super cool that the show and the platform with this topic opens the doors for that, and I think that's great.
Yeah. You know, something I really like a lot about movies and shows these days is looking at the bad guy and trying to put myself in their shoes and understand their rationale behind what they're doing and if they're really bad or not. Because when you put yourself in their shoes, sometimes they're not really that bad. I mean, other times they're obviously bad. And then other times it's like a gray area, and it's like, wow, it actually kind of makes sense from their perspective.
Yeah,
And
like
so I really like doing that with movies and shows. Like I didn't used to do that, but like as I matured and got older, I found myself enjoying that more and more, doing that.
sh- movies like Avengers Infinity War. There's other ones prior to, like, big ones, I'm sure. But here lately, things like Infinity War, popularizing the idea of our bad guy having their own train of thought, and it doesn't always have to come down to the menacing, I'm here to destroy everybody for no reason other
Yeah,
than power. Like, giving them a train of thought, like, it would benefit the universe. You see it as, total rampancy. I see it as mercy.
I
The
see it as
idea,
balanced,
yeah,
as
we're
all
not only
things should
that,
be.
zooming out of the lens, being big Marvel fans that we are, and bigger overall narrative storytellers that we are, knowing the bigger picture here, knowing that there is a bigger picture makes it even more sense. Because then when you take the idea of, well, Galactus would have never came to this planet and destroyed half of, took out half of our solar system, had 100 billions of people not been snapped out. You get what I'm saying? Like, if
Yeah,
Thanos did what he did, he also prevented Galactus from consuming our half of the universe and everything else happening, and all these crazy events that I'm sure the way that Disney has it set up, Loki with his I don't know if you've been watching all these other ones. Loki basically
yeah,
goes
I've
to
seen Loki.
the opens up the infinite dimensions of the time control and everything. We have people like Doctor Strange tampering with time and in the
The
multiverse of
multiverse, yeah,
madness. Yeah, we
so good.
inevitably we are
Looks
opening
amazing.
the doors to these things, and we are craving villains with moral justification on their choosing. You know what I'm saying? We want to
Yeah,
see someone channel today's, common feats. We want to see somebody, a woman or a guy, it doesn't matter who it is. We want to see somebody overcome, their regular norms. We want to see people get up out of their own positions and, express what
yeah.
they feel, and that's a great thing.
I feel like that happens a lot in Star Wars. Returning to the Mandalorian, I like how the Tuscans they had a kid amongst them, right, to make
Hmm.
them more human, and then you know that big train that would come by and they would have that shootout between the Tuscans and those squid-looking things on the train.
Yeah, the pike,
Okay.
the pikes. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, if anyone's gonna remember their name, it's not gonna be me. It's gonna be you. So the Pike versus the Tuscans, when they finally stopped the train, uh, they asked the Pike what they were doing, and they said they were shooting because they were just clearing their like route. You know, they were just clearing their route and getting to where they needed to go, and then the Tuscans were protecting like their family and all that. So it's like they each had their way of justifying it. So they're not. One side wasn't clearly bad, and I really like that. Like how they all have their reasons for what they do. They're not just random. And it's amazing. Like I always thought the Tuscans were bad guys. Like, and then I see the show, and they have like that kid with them. They have like a culture and everything. The
So
way they like sharpen their weapons.
yeah, the
They actually.
Tuscans are interesting, man.
Oh, and let me add this as well. When you know when a bunch of them like died from the first shootout,
Yeah.
um, I saw one of the subtitles said "weepin" from one of the Tuscans, and I couldn't hear it too much, but I did like I don't know if I heard it or not, but I did see the subtitle. It said one of the Tuscans was weeping, because I was wondering that when I saw them getting killed, I was like, I wonder if they have like emotions and like feelings. And when I saw that weeping subtitle, I was like, wow, that's amazing right there.
So the Tuscans from birth, whenever they are birthed, the rare ones that do, because they don't unclothe, every year of their life, they add another
Okay.
layer of clothing to them. This is according to
Oh wow.
the canon and everything, to their lore and all that. They add another layer, and the apparatus on their face and everything just lets them breathe in the sand and all that, and allows them to breathe easier. But they don't have a normal language, so sign being the most common in theirs, because sign language travels across beings with multiple limbs or fingers or anything like that. It's a warrior's language, not only to the how do you say this? I'm trying to say it correctly without having to go and pull it up. The sign language appealed to warriors because there were some warriors who didn't use hearing, who were hard of hearing or completely removed the
Huh.
idea of hearing from them. There are all types
Okay.
of, you see them with body modificators in this episode, people who remove parts of their body in order to advance other parts. Well, this was a normal thing because sign language is a tactical use too. We use it, we see it with SWAT or special trades or SEALs or Navy SEALs. Oftentimes they use all sign language to do an opt or to do a operation. And they the Tuscans use that in other ways. So when they speak on like we'll just start referring like in Native Americans. Native Americans knew French, they knew sign language, they knew parts of English. It was easy. It's a trade dialect, so it wasn't hard to spark up trade
Hmm.
with some of the Tuscan Raiders. But the way we're treating our characters. Hey, what's going on, Jesse? How are you doing today? The way we're treating our characters, we're giving them the story and everything. And like you said, you like how they had emotion. It said he was weeping.
Yeah.
Um, Tuscan Raiders are, they do have emotions and everything, and they view everybody, not just Mando, but everybody on the planet of Tatooine as outsiders. They were a part of the place. They said there, I think it was in the second episode, whenever he was talking to our character Boba Fett, the leader of the Tusken Raiders, said that they had been there. Their ancestors had been there since there were oceans on this planet. And if you don't know the history of Tatooine, it's a circle. It's an ever biting circle of one demon eating the other, being eaten by another. There's always a bigger fish type story
Really?
of the cartels, such as the Pike. Well, you can refer to them as cartels if
Hmm.
you want in some situations, because the Pikes are moving spice. Spice is very much a drug in Star Wars. Many uses for it, obviously, some medical, some not, but they're very much a cartel, warring among our many known cartels. Boba Fett being a daimyo. A daimyo is
Wait, it was a drug.
spice is a drug. Yeah, spice is there are
Uh,
many forms of spice, and spice
thought it was
can be
literally
broken
spice.
down. No, no, no. Spice is just the name of it. It can be broken down into many forms, but the form that our characters had, the Pike Syndicate had in that train at that moment, was the drug
Okay.
form, the
You know,
powdered
that makes
form.
a lot more sense why so many armed people were protecting Spice.
And it makes more sense when you get the idea of our main character Boba Fett here, getting a
Yeah.
grip on it. Like the Pikes aren't gonna move drugs through my territory, and if they are, they're not gonna. This drug has been tearing apart. I don't know if you caught it in this episode, but he said they're fighting for control of our planet, and their drugs are, taking the
Oh.
resources of our planet. Think about
Oh,
it.
I missed that. It's interesting.
Yeah, and he's basically referring to the type of things that it does. Like these younger generation have no jobs because the streets are overtaken by drugs, and that's what we are
Hmm.
seeing is that our new daimyo, our new head leader, a daimyo being somebody within the Bushido um, chain of command, being somebody who answers to a boss, and our character wants to get a hold of that, get a choke on that, and he wants to get things right in the market district, with the prices of water. He wants to help the young people
I
with
like
the
that bit. Yeah,
getting
it's
them
like
a
you're charging
job
too
for
much
now.
for this.
Yeah, he's trying to be the an
Just take
everyday
500
working class
credits, walk
boss,
away.
He's trying to
Yeah,
be a boss on many levels, and that's a hard thing to do from the ground up. But
you
tying
know,
back into our
yeah. Keep going.
I'll let you get this after this. Tying back into the
Yeah,
Tuscans, man, they'd been here for a long time, and their cultural awareness to the planet is very much that we are outsiders, and we are littering and destroying their planet. So we have people such as the Lars family who raised Luke Skywalker, who are moisture farmers who are using technology to pollute the planet in some small fashion to pull water out of the air,
hmm.
and that offends people of the Native American race, of the Tuscan race, and you can see it from a Native American aspect that you're polluting our planet in a fashion to pull water out of the air for you to drink, and you don't even respect the planet. And that's why they keep moisture in their body. They've got Gatorades hidden under the sand in their little melons, and these things aren't even known to people. They look at it like, what is this? Like, what did you just give me? What is that? Like, and we looked at it funny in The Mandalorian, and I think it's a funny thing that they were giving Boba and Mando insight into their world. Like, you don't like it, you think it tastes nasty now, but soon you'll crave it. It's the only thing that'll keep your moisture locked into your body.
Hmm.
It's very much like a Gatorade. It'll give you the necessary, juice to get through a 3 sun day in
Is that
Tatooine.
milk-like substance he gave to
Yeah,
Pike?
yeah, it's
Okay.
that is the very same thing. Yeah, you're right. It's the milk from the melons, and when you put those two things together, you're like, ew, milk and a melon. But it makes very much sense that on a planet you need some sort of
Yeah.
milk type substance to keep your hydration in, or a Gatorade of sorts to
Hmm.
keep the electrolytes in. It makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just use Gatorade.
That's a very good thing. I've wondered that exact same thing myself. Oh yeah, let
Or
the
like
force be with
beef
you. What
jerky.
up?
Actually, I
Yeah,
don't think the
I think
Tuscans
that's
will like
great,
that
man.
because they're woolly mammoths.
They have an entire caste system, small as they may be. The brief little comment of there are other tribes like us who have had to make their way by killing, and that kind of sucks because I'm pretty sure that they were only just like fighting to try to like keep the territories they had from, like, quick
Yeah.
reference, the pod races that would cut through their land in Beggar's Canyon and things like that, and etc. I'm pretty sure they just feel like they've been ran over for forever, and it just
Yeah.
seemed like the
I
perfect
think
characters to.
Boba Fett sensed that because he was
Yeah,
like, "You shouldn't have to hide. You should just be out there and live freely."
they're a warrior breed. They don't live the easiest lives. They definitely live some of the hardest lives. And
Well, when Boba Fett said like you should not have to hide, I guess we'll probably see them try to live more like openly in future
mhm.
episodes.
I hope so too. I
Maybe
hope
they
to
might
see
take
that
his
more.
word. I
I
don't know.
I hope to see more relations,
Yeah, me
hands
too.
being sent out and messengers being sent out to other tribes, and, oh, we heard what you did with that one tribe, we came to back you up this one time type thing. That would be real cool.
Yeah.
A little brief little nod, because Tuscan child. Like, whew, we did not have to go that deep.
Oh
We got a
yeah.
little quick little glimpse of some Revenge of the Sith on that tribe right there. Turn your back for 1 second and everyone's dead.
And that was just awesome when he protected that child from that tarantula-looking uh
Yeah, that
ogre thing out of Lord of the Rings. Like I don't know how to describe the thing.
sand centaur. I'm not sure what the name of that beast
Yeah.
was, but I'm calling it a sand centaur because the way it stood up.
Yeah, actually, that's something out of God of War right there.
That it's
That was an
crazy.
awesome
That was
fight.
it was phenomenon. It was phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I like the entire thing, man. And for I'm gonna make a quick little throw out here. The Boba being a crime lord in a way, a daimyo, which in my head I'm just translating all the different ways. He's a crime lord. He's a cartel head. He's trying to make his own brand. When he said we're starting up our own house, I saw it very much like a reference in Game of Thrones, like, starting your own house, starting your own
Yeah, I felt that
line,
too.
and I felt like that was real, like that was like a deep hit for like our character and what's to come from Disney, because much of what is in Star Wars is clearly out of the past, but much of what's to come is still being written, and I think that's awesome. Like
Mm.
that is super cool. Like we don't, like you said, man. I think giving our character these emotions, these thoughts, in this life is great. Nothing but positive, and that's altogether. I'm walking away with nothing but positive
Yeah.
feelings from all of it. So.
So his future and everything that happens, that's actually never been written. Like this is all just completely
Well,
new
it's
territory.
some has, and like from okay, so
Oh,
some of
that's
my
still
favorite
really exciting though,
audiobooks, he
especially for a
stays.
Star Wars fan like you.
Yeah, 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 definitely. For me, for the longest part, and the longest time for me. This is gonna open up a little bit personal. After Return of the Jedi for me, that was a cut from my Luke and all of my characters aside from Boba, who I knew gets out of the Sarlacc pit at some point in time and carries on his life and moves on and all that good stuff. Most of these characters have lives, like they go on and had like great lives and stories that Disney can never really truly do justice for me. And a lot of it,
Mm.
it'll always be better in the EU. Some of it they may be able to just, hats off, Easter egg nod to here and there with some of these shows, but you'll get more bang for your buck with some of the extended universe and hearing that Boba doesn't stay. Because I can tell you right now, in the extended universe, Boba does a long life of bounty hunting and has a life, gets married, loses some of his family and everything, ends up with only just his kid and blah blah blah, ends up with a blood virus from some nano stuff, ends up getting the cure
Oh
for
wow,
it, and then just basically
jeez.
says, forget all this noise, I want to go back to Mandalore and rebuild my planet. So that's where we get with him. Him immediately breaking the shackles off with Mandalorian and, throwing his loyalties in with Din Djarin, our titular character in Mando. Um, Showing that he has a heart and that not only that, hey man, look, this is my chain code. My blood and
Yeah.
my family not only, provided the clones, but I fought in the Mando Clone Wars. My dad did too. Like that gives us a real sense that, our character has been around for a while and that they're fighting for a purpose. And that's huge. That's super cool. Having that going forward, and he immediately throws all that off and I'm starting my own house. Oh man, that's super cool. So where will we take that direction?
Mm.
Will we
That's a really
slither,
good point.
because we've already cut a hard line straight down the middle. Like you're supposed to be paying fees to move your drugs onto this planet and to do it protected. Then they backtrack on that and slaughter them all and then run off with the Pikes. The mayor runs off with the Pikes, who I'm sure is working some type of plan to overthrow the new head, Boba Fett, the daimyo, to keep things in the loop, which our character made a reference. At some point, they will think to take over this planet because without Jabba here, who had that name and power, we have nothing but new people. So I feel like that's a big cut. Like that's he's gonna have big shoes to fill, and we have backup for that. We have some
Hmm.
because remember our characters in Mando are our backup, quote unquote. His colony, the other Mandalorians. What was the last thing you heard from them?
Mm. I
There
don't
you go.
remember.
You're scratching your head. There you go. They are on the move. The blacksmither, the lady who makes the comment, "This is the way," the one who's, I will not leave here until I've acquired all the armor and the helmets and all stuff useful. The armorer, she stayed there, but all of them left. They had to go to a safe haven. They're on the run. Death Watch, the original crew, Death Watch, the cult that raises our titular character Din Djarin, is on the move right now. They've been on the run and in hiding for a long time because they have no home to go back to. And some of our mainline Mandalorians, I forgot her name already. The not Sabine. Dang it, the one whose sister was the queen. She. Long story short, there are people trying to work to bring Mandalore together, and until that happens, they need somewhere to go. They're on the run,
Was it
and
Satine?
Satine.
Uh,
That's it.
okay.
Satine. She they need somewhere to go. All of them need somewhere to go and someone to rally to at some point. And our character made the reference. Fennec Shan made the reference of, help is cheap if you know where to look. And then we hear Mando's theme song. So it's not beyond speculation to say that, at some point in time we have to rally those on the run Mandalorians to a cause. Because otherwise they'll be without a cause forever, and they're not Mandos, they're Ronin. And only Ronin
Hmm.
are masterless servants, and they are not masterless. They have a cause, it just has to be rallied. And somebody, Din Djarin, wielding the dark saber, can rally that cause, can make that happen.
I knew Boba Fett had a cause to him right away. When he approached the Mandalorian for the first time and talked about his armor and how it was passed down from his dad, I was like, I don't know much about this guy, but I know he has a purpose. If he's gonna be that serious with just armor. But something else I wanted to talk about was how he's like, you know, when you talked about Boba Fett having a heart,
Hmm.
and I was surprised. Well, not really at this point, but nice to see how many times he showed mercy, and he showed that mercy to that one Tusken that was on the ground. He could have hit him, or to the Pikes. He didn't kill them. He let them walk back to the nearest town, using that milk juice to survive on the way back.
We're getting a lot of
Or steroid Chewbacca.
mercy. Oh yeah, for real, that one too. We're getting a lot of that here in the beginning because I think Disney wants that check and balance system. I think they kind of want to come across up front really quickly. Not even really quickly, obviously spread over four
I know what you
episodes
mean.
of a good
Yeah,
guy so that when the time is right, we can do this heartlessly. You know what I'm saying? We can do, like, we've already seen it. Like, you definitely, roll out a freaking bomb inside of the Sarlacc pit, or do some, unhardy stuff like mow down an entire motorcycle squad for killing his only,
that
Tuscan
was awesome.
family, which
Yeah.
was very awesome and satisfying, I must say.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And he protected
knowing
that one innocent guy in the bar, too.
Yeah, that too. Knowing that he would go that distance, and not to mention, don't work for scug holes. Don't, I take it from a bounty hunter, a master bounty hunter. Terrible bosses only make things worse. There's no need
Mm.
to work for idiots, and I think that's the sign of the times. A lot of people. Let me
Yeah.
go ahead and make a. This could be completely offhand, but a lot of people right now, this very moment in 2022, are quitting their jobs and working from home, and just the entire mindset of I don't have to do this anymore. I can do things on my own. I can
Yeah.
cut and write my own rules for myself. Is going far, and that's what it's hitting with these subjects. We're getting a lot of that here on not only Disney's big hands of um, Dave Filoni and John Favreau with their humongous, mile high standards that they're setting every day with these great episodes, but that's what they're trying to bring back home. I'm assuming that's what these characters are trying to show us, that they can change any day. We can be somebody different.
People taking things into their own hands and achieving it on their own in the
Hmm.
modern world is a great comparison, by the way.
Yeah, that
Like
is
that,
great.
that's really
That's
good, like well worded. And you remember before we started this, I said I've been reading a lot of concept art lately.
hmm
Well, in one of my books, I was reading about Spyro and the concept art behind that, and a lot of it goes into like what does the character actually look like that can resemble their personality. And I think it's so interesting. Boba Fett, he has like all these scars on his face, right? He looks really rough, but that's contrasted with his compassionate side and him showing mercy. And I think that's like so smart the way they did that.
yeah, that is great actually.
Yeah.
I'm looking through my comics right now. I've got a couple of them I wanted to show the viewers. I, apparently I can't find them. Oh, here they are at the bottom.
What kind of
It's
comics? Star Wars comics?
Star Wars comics actually. I have a few of them. Oh, I'm supposed to, but try not to dig too hard through the posters. I just want to
Yeah,
find
I know you're a huge fan when you literally have comics of it. It's
Oh
great.
yeah, man. Some of this stuff was just my childhood free time that I had. All the time I had invested into it was just, you know, pure hobby
Yeah.
for me, man.
I actually
Nothing
haven't
better.
watched the latest Star Wars film.
Let's see. So here's one of here's one of my
Still
They
gonna.
This one's a newer one, but it was just cool to read. I just like the art on it. Some Darth Vader and Leia on here. This one, let's see, what is it? Aaron Deodato Martin. Yeah, this is not long after the merger, if I'm not mistaken. Really cool stuff referencing the old movies. Whenever Luke had got caught in Empire, Obi-Wan and Anakin. Let's reinforce on the Clone Wars idea.
Can I see the other side with Darth Vader?
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Caught a glimpse of that. Nice.
Then we have Luke being shanghaied from The Empire Strikes Back, hanging upside down. I might have to turn the effect off on my camera. Give me one moment. Event settings. There we go.
How many comics do you have
Ooh, quite a
of
bit. I
Star
couldn't
Wars?
I couldn't go through them all on
Really?
here. I have a good few
Nice. I can
stacks.
see it better now. Does that have a spider?
Oh no,
Oh,
it's
that's
not a.
like.
It's the.
Oh
I'm
no.
trying to remember what it's. The
I thought it was.
Wampa. It's called a Wampa. It,
Okay.
Luke cuts his arm off in the scene from Empire, and that's whenever he crawls out, and we get the famous Luke. You must go to the Dagobah system. There you will meet Yoda. We have a little bit of Anakin and Obi-Wan and Anakin here, trying to reinforce our Clone Wars love. So much of this stuff, man.
Nice.
It's ridiculous amounts. And in the end, but what did it boil out to? Disney buying Star Wars and Marvel and changing everything up, saying that anything in a comic or book non-canon anymore. And that part really sucked as a fan. But when you see the successes that they have later in the future, it's really good and it works out really well. And I thought it was good. So just good to reference
Hmm.
some of this stuff once in a while and show that fans never stop being fans. Fans will always look for that niche, that little category where they can find their piece of what they like. And seeing the characters come out of that and come into our screen and give us a piece of that fandom for under an hour every week or something for a small amount of time, super satisfying as a fan.
But they don't have to be canon anymore, or are they
No,
not paying
canon is
homage right
basically
to the
like
comics?
canon. Can We might get a reference here or there, but that's what, like I said, that's why it pays to be the super fan, obviously, in any subject where you start getting, Easter egg nod tips and things like that, such as a pearl coming out of the giant monster, the crate dragon in the Mandalorian. That pearl, by the way, in the extended universe, has the power and capability to make a very
Hmm.
rare color and form of lightsaber. So the Tuscans, you know, symbolizing that pearl as a great victory over the crate dragon, the very creature they fear and revere, is a big thing. And for them to keep that pearl as part of the deal between Mando, it is also a reference and a nod to the extended universe. Fans that listen to Obi-Wan, the audiobook, which was his time, the whole Obi-Wan
Wait,
series that
I
you'll be
gotta I
getting
gotta stop you for a second. So they're somewhat canon. Like they're just saying some things that happen in the comics and
in
books,
the
but other
in the
things
in
they
the
do on their
books.
own.
In the books, we have a number of magical items and things that are normal in the books because that's part of the lore. But that's not canon in Disney, what Disney has created as Star Wars, because they will introduce what they
Okay.
believe is canon. So everything in the books and comics that's not a part of Disney, that wasn't published by Disney Marvel during this
Okay.
purchase, is not relevant to the show, because unless the show references it itself, that's not canon. Canon means like this is what's known and 100% in the positive, in the Star Wars universe right this moment, according to
Okay.
Disney.
So
So
do you like and dislike that? Because you
I do.
like
I
what they've
like
done,
and
you said,
dislike.
but
because a
but you
lot of
wish
this
that
stuff
they
was
did some
already
things.
written. Like Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan audiobook and the book itself of Obi-Wan's trials in Tatooine as a babysitter for Luke is already known. A lot of major writings and what happens out there and his learning of how to transition into the living force as a force ghost is already known. It's just how will Disney choose to bring that to life? How will they choose to show us? What angles will they give us? Will there be
Oh, okay.
Qui-Gon, Yoda? Like, how will you show that? How will you show him
Hmm.
staying a hermit crab while at the same time boiling inside for killing your best friend? You know, this kid's father. And that's what makes it a little disconcerting as an extended universe fan, because then you
Yeah.
know I've listened to this story. I know how he does it. I know how he copes and battles with it all the time. I've heard his entire life. I've heard 70 plus hours non-refundable, by the way. Thank you, Audible, for taking my money oh so quickly. Big shouts out to not a sponsor, Audible. I wish they were someday. Hit me up, Audible, if you're listening to this. um, I've listened to enough of these stories to know that there's, a life past them. And like I was referencing with the Mandalorian, with that pearl, that when Din Djarin helps the Tusken people with that giant crate dragon in that, episode where he's helping the getting the armor back from the other sheriff, they pulled a pearl out of it, and that pearl is a reference in the comics as well, and in the extended universe. That pearl has the material to create its own unique form of lightsaber, and it's sacred
Okay.
to the Tuscans. But they don't use it for that. That's not what they're using it for. It's just sacred to them as an icon of victory, a
Gotcha.
trophy of sorts. But to us in the extended universe, we know it can do so much more. It's capable of much more things than that. And it was just cool to see Dave Filoni, John Favreau make that reference and be like, "Oh, look
Hmm.
what we got! We got a giant pearl. We got the trophy right here." But we as fans are like, "Yo, that thing could do a lot of crazy stuff if y'all actually did something with it. It's really cool."
Maybe they will.
Yeah, maybe they will. It's just the idea that
Yeah.
they put it out there and that somebody of knowledge knew to do that. John Favreau, Dave Filoni, big wink winks to you guys. Big fans here. um, that's really cool. That's really really cool. And even Black Chrysanthemum, the big Wookiee that we had that just completely whooped on Boba Fett while he was taking his back to bath, his back to or whatever you want to call it, his back to bath, his old man bath. Um, Black Chrysanthemum is big in the comics too. He's a big bounty hunter. He came out of the gladiatorial pits on slave planets. He was taken after the Clone Wars, after the sacking of Kashyyyk, and even he is really big and titular because they cross paths in the comics. It was just really cool to see them pluck
Yeah.
him out of the comics or out of the extended universe and give him a life up front, with the other Hutts. And then to see the other Hutts just be like, "Yeah, you keep him, sell him back to the pits for all I care." I'm like, "Oh, that really sucks." Like, but they drove
For
home the
that monster to
idea.
eat them, then.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that
pet
too.
thing that. I don't
Yeah,
even forget what it's called.
the
The rhinoceros looking
oh no, man, I always
monster thing.
the
It starts with a G, I think? A Gregor? I don't even know.
it's escaping me for the moment.
Well, you must have, like, a specific thing you love about each of these stories in Star Wars. And something I
I
wanted
do
to
and I
ask
don't.
you was,
Go
um,
ahead.
I liked how it made you realize, like, how much of a person, how likable he actually was, and how human he was. That's what I liked about Boba the most, like the show, and then like how I thought Tuscans were bad until I actually really saw them. Then Mandalorian, I loved his arc of him eventually trusting droids because of that droid like protecting him and protecting the baby. And I was wondering what you liked most about Boba and Mandalorian yourself.
Boba, I like Boba is very Clint Eastwood bounty hunter, say less, do more. I love him for the myth of it all, the lore, for
Nice.
just he goes way back for me because he's worth more to me alive. You will be compensated very well. No disintegrations. Darth Vader wagging his finger in front of him. I want them alive. I need Skywalker's friends alive. Once we have the princess, Solo is free for you to go to take to the Hutts. no disintegrations. That alone was like, oh man, we got a bounty hunter here that's known for disintegrating people. Oh my god. Like that was crazy. And then not to mention the scene where we have Han Solo escape and he takes off in the garbage. Everybody, he does the Kansas City shuffle. The Empire shoots left, Han Solo floats right. And to see that Boba Fett at that moment turns his ship on and starts floating with Han, you're like, oh man, we got some smart people out here in the galaxy, like, this guy's actually
Yeah,
pretty good and he knows what he's doing. And I like that as far as Boba. As far as Mandalorian,
nice.
everything on Mando, man. Like everything for him is brand new and unique. Like not brand new, like oh man, like you're totally new. Brand new in the sense that we need a new breath of the old, and he represents a little bit of the old, the Mandalorian way, and Boba Fett and all the reflections of him, and he represents the new because he's
Yeah.
carving the path forward right this moment, and we all agree with that. We all agree that he's
Oh
new,
yeah.
he's refreshing, he's something completely different, and where he's taking us in this very moment, that's where I'm happy to see because he's got a heart, he's
Yeah.
got emotions, he's done the unthinkable, he pulled his mask off because Han is solo dolo. That's why, yeah, you're very correct on that, Jesse.
All my
I like to
friends say
see,
they love the show too.
yeah, of course, man, it's impossible to hate Baby Yoda.
Not heard a single bad thing
It's
about it. Yeah.
exactly like it hits hard for a lot of people because I think the pandemic basically made people very reclusive, pulled people inwards, and we lost a lot of social aspect. And to see a character basically open up and be vulnerable throughout all this negativity. What was the synopsis I saw in a meme? Single dad raises child with broken down car issues over 2 seasons. I'm like,
That's funny.
wow, that hit hard. But that's the thing, man. People want to see the underdog, man. People want to see you lose everything and come down to your knees because our character, man, he's lost it all. We done lost Baby Yoda, we lost the ship, we lost all our money at one point. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
underdog story of how's he gonna come back? How are you gonna end it? And that satisfying feel of knowing that we hit the whole arc as total kind of badass at the beginning, bounty hunter, this is the way, all the way to full loop, you know, the child, take whatever you want, you can have the weapon, the child is my priority. That says a lot. That says a whole lot. The
Yeah,
child
he
is my
went
only
from just taking
priority.
money to prioritizing the baby.
The child is my only priority. Be honest, the pandemic turned people into assholes. Hey man, we're not here to reflect on the realities, okay? This channel is meant to escape your reality, okay? But yeah, man, the pandemic had a rough effect on a lot of people, and I feel like these shows are meant to show that reflection because what are shows but a reflection of the piece of time you live in? What is media but a reflection of how we feel in the moment that we're living? And that's what this show is doing. It's showing us how some people have been very reclusive, and through our time with Din Djarin, we've come to open up. And even knowing that this is the way, and we never take our helmets off, that even once in a while we got to take that helmet off. That Bill Burr, of all people, the most sadistic comedian of all people, can tug at my heartstrings. You caught that episode, right? Well, Bill Burr shoots that Imperial dead in the face with on the Mandalorian when they're sitting there having a chat, and he makes the reference to Burning Khan, and he's like, Burning Khan, that's a man that knows his history right there. What do you know about that? I had to make my decisions. He's like, oh yeah, killing all those innocent people, those people, and that were in, you know, day-to-day workers. That was just you doing what you got to do. Then he pulls the pistol out and boom, and then the Mando looks over at him, and he's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god. That was it right there. That was the epitome of what we want to see. We want to see somebody who has a history. Not all people are good. He was an imperial sharpshooter of all things, and we end up growing on Bill Burr of all people. And in the Star Wars universe, anyone could be anything, and that's great.
Yeah.
That even your sadistic, comedy. Oh my God, you're in stormtrooper armor.
Mm.
Oh my God, what would they think back on Mandalore? That type of thing. Like that type of satire comedy is great. It's great.
It's done really well in the show.
Yeah.
Well, it's been good talking to you about these shows, man.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Jesse, thank you for coming out here and checking on the stream, man. You can go back over the topics. I won't be putting any footnotes in the timeline or anything right now. Not right this moment. I'll do it later on. But thank you, everybody who came out here and checked out our stream. Adam, always great. It's always a pleasure. We're gonna try and do this again some other time, maybe on Thursday on my next day off or something. After we catch the next episode and have time to digest it, we might do this again. We might not.
Well, the thing is, I don't plan on watching any more of them for a while
Oh
because of my,
no!
break and all this. Yeah, Dying Light about to come out.
What? Oh no! There's only a
So
few
I'll be
episodes
take.
left, man.
I know, yeah, but it was nice talking to like someone who is an expert in this compared to like a noob. It's
Oh
like
man,
we're
it's always a
contrasting that
pleasure.
way, but it was still really fun though because you
Of
get to
course,
see
of
what a new
course.
person thinks about it, and then I mean, I get to see what you think about it coming from someone that has been in that universe for a long time,
Oh
even
yeah.
read the comics.
Oh yeah. It's super awesome, man. Super great. It's always
So it's cool
inviting for
seeing your
anybody.
take.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, guys, that was Adam Hart. Feel free to sub to him. I'll put his site in the description right there, his YouTube channel. You guys,
thanks, man.
everybody, thank you for coming out here. I appreciate everything. Adam, thank you for coming out here. Always good to have convos and chit chats with you.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully
All
people
right,
find this
guys.
video. I feel like anyone who watches the show or is a fan of Star Wars would actually really enjoy this.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back and edit a couple little tags and words and whatnot that'll have my stuff pop up, hopefully. But in any case, I'm gonna be doing this a little bit more often and elaborating on a little bit more of this lore and history. So you
Well,
guys
you're
stop by
really
and
knowledgeable with this. This would be. I see this being successful, man. Like this kind of playlist for you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. It will be on my chit chat playlist. I'll be making a chit chat playlist. It's basically just
Sounds good.
topics and things we can stop by and chit chat about. Anyways, guys, y'all have a good night, alright? I'm gonna go ahead and kill the stream right there. Adam, thank you for stopping by, my man. I appreciate it all the time. It's always a pleasure, my man.